Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our witnesses here for their service during certainly very challenging times for our country. And I wanted to follow up, Chairman Dempsey, on some of the remarks that Senator Chambliss made. I'm glad to hear you describe how you yourself were actually assisted by an A-10, and I think that story could be told many times, particularly by those who serve on the ground on behalf of our nation and our Army. In fact, General Odierno, as you know, came before the committee and described the A-10 as the best close air support platform we have today. It's performed incredibly well in Iraq and Afghanistan, he said, and our soldiers have confidence in this system. And I wanted to ask you, this isn't the first time that, you know, in the past, even before the performances we've seen from the A-10 in particularly Iraq and continued in Afghanistan, that the Air Force has tried to actually eliminate this platform, is it?
No.
No, so we've been here before, and some of the biggest advocates for the platform have been, you know, your fellow soldiers who have had similar experiences with the A-10, isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'll tell you, Senator, what's different now is we had some slack in our budget over the last 10 years. There's no more slack in it. The margins are just really very tight. But if you're asking me, the A-10 is the ugliest, most beautiful aircraft on the planet.
I appreciate that. And let's talk about the slack, because I understand the difficulties that you're all under in terms of the budget challenges. But it seems to me, as we talk about values and priorities, the biggest values and priorities that I know we all share is to make sure that our men and women in uniform who are served have the best support and protection that they need. And, you know, let me just say that I agree with what Senator Chambliss said, that the A-10 is not a single-purpose airplane. But let's talk about what we know is its very important purpose, close air support. As I understand it, recently in a Wall Street Journal article, Air Force officials acknowledged when this article discussed the elimination of the A-10 that getting rid of the A-10 could lead to higher deaths, longer battles, even defeat on the battlefield. This is from Air Force officials, and in fact, Major General Paul T. Johnson, the Air Force Director of Operational Capability Requirements, said there's a risk that attrition will be higher than it should be. That's a clever way of saying more people will get hurt and die, and extreme risk is that you might not win. So here's my concern to all of you in question. I understand the budget environment, but we are in the FYDP proposing, your proposal, Secretary Hagel, General Dempsey, is to eliminate and phase out the F-10 before even we have an F-35A, which will perform presumably close air support effective, which will not be operational till 2021. You have it all phased out by the 19, and so therefore we have that gap there. To me, this, of all the things, when we talk about priorities, when we hear Air Force officials, and I've heard similar concerns from those on the ground, that lives will be at stake, why aren't we preserving that priority over other priorities?
If I could, if you don't mind, sir, because I don't want to leave it hanging in the air that I would take a decision or support a decision that would put our men and women at greater risk. I would not. As you know, Senator, the close air support can be provided by F-15, F-16, F-18, and B-1 with a sniper pod. So there are other systems out there that can provide the capability.
We know that, General, but I won't get into the debate with you because I don't think you'd disagree with me that the reattack times are much faster for the A-10 at that low because of the low and slow ability. And so therefore, if you're talking about 1 or 2 minutes on a reattack time, that can be the difference between life and death on the ground. So I understand that other platforms can certainly be part of this mission, but the question is it worth that time period for our men and women in uniform on a platform that has performed consistently well? The other concern I have is that it seems almost like an assumption that we aren't going to fight another ground war, and I know that Senator McCain asked you that. You don't share that assumption, I hope. I don't think any of us want to fight another ground war, but I don't think we can obviously go forward with that kind of assumption.
No, I don't share that view at all. By the way, one other point on the, you'll be fortunate enough to have the Chief Staff of the Air Force appear before you, who happens to be an A-10 pilot, so I think maybe he'll be able to.
I know, and I really hope he thinks back to his roots there. I appreciate that. Let